By signing the Declaration of Independence, the 56 Americans pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. It was no idle pledge. 9 signers died of wounds during the Revolutionary War. 5 were captured or imprisoned. Wives and children were killed, jailed, mistreated, or left penniless. And 12 signers' houses were burned to the ground. 17 lost everything that they owned. No signer defected. Their honor, like their nation, remained intact. Why did they make such a stark sacrifice? They believed that God made man to live free. Now consider the following with me. In 2019, 1.5 million people died from tuberculosis. There were no lockdowns, no masks. In 2017, 2.5 million people died from pneumonia. There was no small businesses closed. And every single year, 4 million people die from respiratory tract infection. And yet there's no media coverage. 800,000 Americans die from heart disease every year. And there's no ban on donuts and sugary drinks. In 2019, 600,000 Americans died from cancer. It's the second leading cause of death in this country. 10 million people die in the world every single year from hunger. Yet today's medical community has been driven by psychosis to focus only on COVID-19 while minimizing every other cause of death. In fall of 2020, when 300,000 deaths had been reported, the news broke that only 6% of COVID deaths had no comorbidities. These are comorbidities like heart disease, like respiratory illness, among others. And when Dr. Fauci was asked about this, he downplayed it and said it wasn't the comorbidities that caused the deaths. Then, this year, the Dr. Fauci emails came out, and among the many startling admissions was Fauci saying that the masks don't work. Which isn't surprising, is it? Because why would any of us believe that wearing cloth over your mouth and nose would constitute good medicine? If I asked the most highly esteemed doctors and health professionals in 2019 about 2 different health philosophies. 1, eating good organic meats, fruits, and veggies, getting sufficient sunshine, exercising 3 times a week, and getting good sleep. Or 2, wearing a mask, injecting a mysterious liquid into your blood, staying indoors and 6 feet away from every other human being. Which philosophy do you think that those doctors would endorse and encourage? Think about it. What philosophy of health would they recommend? And what about now in 2021? Have we decided as a society to throw medical expertise and common sense out the window? There are tens of thousands of doctors and healthcare professionals that took a stand against the lockdowns, small business closures, masks, and the insanity of the COVID measures. Yet a majority of those voices have been silenced by social media, like Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, among others. And earlier this year, the governor of Florida held a meeting with doctors, and yet YouTube took the video down. All for a supposedly deadly virus that actually has a 99.8% survival rate. When we consider all of this in retrospect, what does it say about freedom? When small businesses like restaurants and gyms and salons were crushed, their livelihoods destroyed, while people were allowed to riot and tear down historical statues, burn down Apple and Target stores. What does it say about freedom? when churches were forced to close while big box stores were allowed to stay open. What does this say about freedom? When to this day, after all the facts have come out about how harmless COVID is to the average person, little children all across America and the world are still forced to wear masks in schools. Regardless of any statistics, any facts, any of the tens of thousands of doctors who have decried the COVID lockdowns, to this day, we are suppressing and enslaving the faces, covering the voices of our next generation. We are suppressing and enslaving the millions of restaurant workers, retail workers, and staff members of businesses all across the country by forcing them like animals to wear a muzzle while people enjoy coffee, meals, buy clothing, and scout the mall freely, showing their faces. Is that science? Is that common sense? Is that practicality? Is that integrity? Is that freedom? America was a country founded on God. On the dollar bill, it reads, "In God we trust." The Pledge of Allegiance says, "One nation under God, with liberty and justice for all." And it says in the Declaration of Independence that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. When you enjoy the sight of fireworks, enjoy the cookouts and time with friends and family, adopt the strength to consider this one question for America and for the world. How can you be free when you don't have the freedom to show your face? In the words of MLK, our lives begin to end the day that we become silent about the things that matter. And lastly, I'd like to quote scripture. Proverbs 24, verses 24 and 25. Whoever says to the guilty, "You are innocent," will be cursed by peoples and denounced by nations. But it will go well with those who convict the guilty, and a rich blessing will come on them. Today, I ask you to stand with me as we continue the fight for freedom and the fight for the face of humanity.